The Rising Star. Introduction of Marcus. Marcus Johnson had always been different. Born and raised in a modest neighborhood on the outskirts of Atlanta, his childhood was colored by a palette of dreams and challenges. While other kids spent their afternoons playing basketball or video games, Marcus would sit on his porch, sketching the world around him. His mother, a nurse who worked double shifts to make ends meet, often found him surrounded by crumpled papers and charcoal pencils, lost in his creations. From an early age, it was clear Marcus had a gift. His drawings captured the spirit of his subjects: a tired old man sitting on a bench, a stray dog wandering the streets, or the sunrise over their small apartment complex. His mother, ever his biggest supporter, scraped together money to buy him paints and a canvas for his 12th birthday. That moment marked the beginning of his lifelong love affair with art. Challenges and persistence. As Marcus grew older, his passion for painting deepened, but so did the financial struggles of his family. His dream of attending a prestigious art school was dashed when his mother fell ill and medical bills consumed their savings. Instead, Marcus took on odd jobs to support his family, painting in his spare time. Though life was tough, Marcus never gave up on his art. He would set up a makeshift studio in their cramped apartment, using discarded materials to create stunning works. His paintings told stories of resilience, community, and the beauty in struggle, a reflection of his own life. Despite his talent, the art world remained out of reach, a seemingly impenetrable fortress ruled by gatekeepers who often overlooked artists like him. Encounter with Mr. Caldwell. One day, fueled by a mixture of hope and desperation, Marcus decided to visit a well-known gallery in downtown Atlanta. The gallery, owned by a man named Mr. Caldwell, was a hub for elite art collectors. Caldwell was infamous for his sharp tongue and snobbish attitude, but Marcus believed his work spoke for itself. Clutching a portfolio of his best pieces, Marcus walked into the gallery. The room was filled with pretentious chatter and the faint scent of expensive wine. When Marcus approached Caldwell, the older man looked him up and down, his face twisting into a disdainful sneer. "What do you want?" Caldwell asked, his tone dripping with condescension. "I'd like to show you my work," Marcus replied, opening his portfolio with trembling hands. Caldwell barely glanced at the paintings before scoffing. This isn't art. It's amateur hour. Stick to whatever it is you people do best." Humiliated and furious, Marcus left the gallery, his heart heavy but his resolve unshaken. He vowed to prove Caldwell wrong, not out of spite, but to validate his talent and the stories he wanted to share with the world. A new approach. Determined to find an audience for his work, Marcus decided to take a different route. He began painting murals in his neighborhood, turning blank walls into vibrant expressions of hope and resilience. His work caught the attention of local residents, who shared photos of his murals on social media. Slowly, his reputation began to grow. Marcus also started participating in local art fairs, setting up a modest booth where he displayed his paintings. Though sales were sparse, the feedback he received fueled his determination. People were moved by his work, and some even encouraged him to keep pushing toward his dreams. The mysterious buyer. One warm Saturday afternoon, Marcus was manning his booth at an art fair in a bustling park. The sun shone brightly, and a steady stream of visitors wandered through the rows of colorful tents. Marcus greeted each passerby with a smile, eager to share the stories behind his paintings. Near the end of the day, a well-dressed woman in sunglasses and a wide-brimmed hat stopped at his booth. She examined his work with an intensity Marcus hadn't encountered before. After a few minutes, she turned to him. "Your art is extraordinary," she said, her voice soft but commanding. "Who represents you?" Marcus hesitated. "No one," he admitted. "I'm just trying to make it on my own." The woman nodded thoughtfully. "You won't be for long. I'd like to buy this one." She pointed to a piece titled Phoenix Rising, a vivid depiction of a bird emerging from flames, symbolizing renewal and perseverance. Marcus barely managed to stammer out a price, and she handed him a check without hesitation. Before leaving, she handed him a business card. "Call me," she said with a smile. "I think I can help you." As Marcus watched her disappear into the crowd, he felt a spark of hope reignite within him. For the first time, he dared to believe that his dreams were within reach. The mysterious buyer's interest marked the beginning of a journey that would change his life forever. To be continued. Racist cops and a family's ordeal. Introduction of Agent Derek Carter. Derek Carter had built a stellar reputation as one of the FBI's top agents. Over the course of his 15-year career, he had tackled high-profile cases involving organized crime, cybersecurity threats, and domestic terrorism. Known for his meticulous attention to detail and calm demeanor, Derek was a pillar of professionalism and competence. But behind the accolades and the sharp suits, Derek was also a devoted husband and father. His wife, Monica, and their 2 children, Jasmine, 15, and Marcus, 10, were the anchors of his life. After wrapping up an especially grueling investigation, Derek decided it was time to prioritize family. He planned a much-needed vacation to a luxury resort in a picturesque coastal town, a getaway he hoped would allow them to reconnect and relax. The family's joyful vacation. From the moment they arrived, the Carters were filled with excitement. The resort boasted pristine beaches, infinity pools, and top-notch amenities. Jasmine and Marcus marveled at the view from their suite, and Monica couldn't wait to try the spa treatments she'd read about online. For Derek, seeing his family smile was the highlight of the trip. Over the next few days, the Carters immersed themselves in the joys of vacation life. They played beach volleyball, indulged in decadent meals, and took long walks by the shore. Derek, typically burdened by the weight of his job, felt a rare sense of lightness. For the first time in months, he could simply be a father and husband. An incident of racial profiling. On the 4th day of their vacation, the Carters decided to visit the resort's upscale shopping plaza. Dressed casually and carrying shopping bags from earlier purchases, they strolled through the shops, laughing and enjoying each other's company. Unbeknownst to them, a store clerk at one of the high-end boutiques had been watching them with suspicion. Despite the family's polite demeanor, the clerk assumed they didn't belong there. Without confronting the Carters or seeking clarification, the clerk called the local police, reporting a group of suspicious individuals who might be up to no good. Minutes later, as the Carters left the boutique, they were confronted by 2 uniformed officers. The officers, their hands resting on their holstered weapons, demanded to see identification. Derek, taken aback but still calm, asked for an explanation. "We got a report of suspicious activity," one officer replied curtly. "Suspicious how?" Derek asked, his voice steady but firm. Instead of answering, the officers insisted that the Carters step aside for questioning. Monica, alarmed, clutched her children protectively. The situation escalated as the officers grew increasingly hostile, accusing the family of trespassing and refusing to provide identification. A wrongful arrest. Marcus breakthrough. Recognition through the mysterious buyer. Marcus couldn't believe the events that unfolded after his encounter with the mysterious buyer at the local art fair. The woman, who introduced herself as Elaine Harper, turned out to be a well-connected philanthropist with a passion for supporting underrepresented artists. Elaine invited Marcus to a private meeting at her gallery in a nearby city. Nervous but excited, Marcus packed his portfolio and traveled to meet her. Elaine's gallery was a vibrant, welcoming space that featured artists from diverse backgrounds. During their meeting, she examined Marcus' work in detail, her admiration evident. "Your art tells stories that need to be heard," she said. "With the right platform, you can reach audiences far beyond what you've imagined." Elaine offered to showcase his paintings in her upcoming exhibition, which was attended by influential art collectors and critics. Marcus hesitated at first, fearing rejection, but Elaine's encouragement reassured him. He poured his soul into creating new pieces for the exhibition, determined to make an impact. The exhibition was a resounding success. Collectors and critics were captivated by Marcus' vivid depictions of resilience, community, and cultural identity. Elaine's network proved invaluable, as several of his pieces were purchased by high-profile buyers. For the first time, Marcus felt his hard work and talent were being recognized. The auction house opportunity. Elaine didn't stop at the exhibition. She introduced Marcus to curators at a prestigious auction house, one known for discovering rising stars. Intrigued by his work, the auction house agreed to include 3 of Marcus' paintings in their upcoming event. The auction turned out to be a watershed moment for Marcus. Bidders competed fiercely for his pieces, driving prices higher than he had ever imagined. By the end of the night, all 3 paintings had sold for 6-figure sums, catapulting Marcus into the upper echelons of the art world. News outlets and social media buzzed with talk of this self-made artist whose work speaks volumes. Caldwell's gallery struggles. Meanwhile, back in Atlanta, Mr. Caldwell's gallery was experiencing a sharp decline. His dismissive attitude and outdated practices had alienated younger, more progressive audiences. His insistence on catering to a narrow, elitist clientele left him out of touch with the changing art world. Caldwell dismissed social media and community engagement as gimmicks, unaware that they were now the driving forces behind many artists' success. As Caldwell's gallery struggled to attract patrons, news of Marcus' meteoric rise reached him. At first, he dismissed Marcus' success as a fluke. "The art world loves a novelty," he scoffed, refusing to acknowledge the depth and authenticity of Marcus' work. But as Marcus' name continued to dominate headlines, Caldwell's dismissal turned into bitterness. The young artist he had once mocked was now outshining every artist in his gallery. The philanthropist's mission. Amid his growing success, Marcus remained curious about Elaine Harper's motivations. She had transformed his career seemingly overnight, and he wanted to understand why she had chosen to help him. During a quiet moment at her gallery, Marcus asked her directly. Elaine smiled, her eyes thoughtful. "I grew up in a community where art was a luxury, something most people didn't have access to," she explained. "When I became successful, I made it my mission to create opportunities for artists like you, talented individuals whose voices might otherwise be drowned out by an elitist system." Her words resonated deeply with Marcus. He realized that his journey wasn't just about personal success, it was about breaking barriers and paving the way for others. Inspired, he decided to dedicate part of his earnings to initiatives supporting young, underrepresented artists. The climactic auction. Months later, Marcus' work reached another milestone. A prestigious international auction house announced that one of his latest pieces would be the highlight of their upcoming event. Titled Roots of Resilience, the painting was a powerful exploration of heritage and perseverance. The auction night was electric. Art collectors from around the world vied for the piece, driving its price into the millions. When the final bid was announced, the room erupted in applause. Marcus, who watched the event via livestream, could hardly believe what he was witnessing. The news of the sale reached Caldwell's ears the next morning. Sitting in his nearly empty gallery, he read the headlines with a mixture of disbelief and envy. Marcus Johnson, the young artist he had once mocked, was now a global sensation. Caldwell's outdated ideals had left him behind, while Marcus had become a symbol of the new, inclusive art world. A moment of triumph. For Marcus, the auction's success was more than a financial victory, it was a validation of his journey. Standing in his newly opened studio, he reflected on the years of struggle and the people who had helped him along the way. With his career now firmly established, Marcus resolved to use his platform to uplift others, just as Elaine had done for him. The stage was set for the next chapter in Marcus' story, one where his art would continue to inspire and empower, and where the world would finally see the brilliance he had always carried within. To be continued. The family's fight for justice. Derek Carter's resolve. The days following the wrongful arrest were a whirlwind for Derek Carter and his family. What should have been a serene vacation had turned into a public battle against systemic racism. The videos of their ordeal had gone viral, sparking outrage across social media and news outlets. Support poured in from all corners, but Derek knew that real change required more than sympathy, it required action. As an FBI agent, Derek was no stranger to systemic flaws in law enforcement. He'd worked on cases that exposed corruption and bias before, but this time it was personal. The humiliation his family endured became his rallying cry. With Monica and the children's full support, he began leveraging his resources and connections to confront the injustice head-on. Uncovering patterns of racism. Derek reached out to his colleagues and civil rights attorneys to start a formal investigation into the local police department. Through records requests and whistleblower testimony, troubling patterns began to emerge. Over the past 5 years, the department had disproportionately targeted Black residents for minor infractions, often escalating situations unnecessarily. Complaints of excessive force and racial profiling had been swept under the rug, with little to no accountability for offending officers. Derek's team uncovered emails and internal communications that revealed a deeply entrenched culture of bias. Training materials were outdated, diversity initiatives were virtually non-existent, and leadership routinely dismissed complaints from the community. The officers involved in Derek's arrest had a history of misconduct, but their records had been expunged or ignored due to departmental favoritism. As the evidence mounted, Derek worked tirelessly to ensure the story reached the public. Civil rights organizations joined forces with him, amplifying the findings and demanding accountability. Public outcry and media coverage. The release of the investigation's findings triggered a firestorm. Major news outlets covered the story, highlighting not only the Carter family's ordeal, but also the systemic issues within the department. Protests erupted in the town, with demonstrators demanding justice for all victims of police misconduct. Derek, initially hesitant to step into the spotlight, became a central figure in the movement. He gave interviews and participated in town hall meetings, always emphasizing that his fight wasn't just about his family, it was about creating a safer, fairer community for everyone. Meanwhile, Monica and the children found their own ways to contribute. Monica partnered with local activists to organize community forums, while Jasmine used social media to share her perspective as a teenager who had witnessed injustice firsthand. Marcus, though younger, found solace in expressing his feelings through art, inspired by stories of resilience and hope. Marcus Johnson's role. As Derek's fight for justice gained traction, it caught the attention of Marcus Johnson, the now famous artist. Watching the Carter family's story unfold, Marcus was deeply moved. He saw echoes of his own experiences in their struggle, the feeling of being dismissed, the fight to be heard, the triumph of resilience. By this point, Marcus had amassed significant wealth from his art sales. He decided to use his newfound influence to support the cause. Quietly, he reached out to Derek, offering a substantial donation to legal funds supporting civil rights cases. "I've been where you are," Marcus told Derek during their first conversation. "And I know how hard it is to fight a system that's designed to silence us. Use this to keep the momentum going." The donation made headlines, further galvanizing public support for the Carters. But more than the financial contribution, the partnership between Derek and Marcus symbolized a broader unity within the Black community, a shared commitment to fighting injustice through every available means. Consequences for corrupt officers. With mounting public pressure and irrefutable evidence, the corrupt officers involved in Derek's arrest were finally held accountable. Internal investigations led to suspensions, demotions, and, in some cases, terminations. One officer faced criminal charges for falsifying reports and violating civil rights, while others were forced to confront their role in perpetuating systemic racism. The department's leadership also faced scrutiny. The police chief, under fire for years of inaction, resigned amid the scandal. A new interim chief was appointed, tasked with implementing immediate reforms. These changes included mandatory bias training, independent oversight of misconduct complaints, and increased community engagement initiatives. Initiating reforms. Derek, along with local activists and legal experts, worked closely with the town's leadership to ensure the reforms were substantive and sustainable. While the process was slow and met with resistance from some quarters, the community's determination never wavered. The case also spurred broader discussions about policing across the country. Derek's story became a catalyst for other families to share their experiences, leading to similar investigations and reforms in neighboring jurisdictions. A symbol of hope. Months later, the Carters stood on a stage at a community event celebrating the progress that had been made. Marcus Johnson was in attendance, one of the evening's keynote speakers. "I used to think my art was just about telling my story," Marcus said to the crowd. "But today, I see it's about all of our stories. It's about using what we have, our voices, our platforms, our talents, to fight for justice." Derek followed with his own speech, thanking the community for standing by his family and pledging to continue the fight. His words resonated with everyone present, a reminder that progress was possible, even in the face of deep-rooted injustice. As the event concluded, Derek and Marcus met for the first time in person. They shared a quiet moment, exchanging words of mutual respect. Both men, in their own ways, had fought against a system that sought to diminish them. And together, they had become symbols of resilience, courage, and the power of unity. Triumph and redemption. Marcus buys Caldwell's gallery. Months after Marcus' meteoric rise in the art world, his success showed no signs of slowing down. His work was now celebrated globally, and he had amassed a loyal following of collectors and admirers. But Marcus never forgot where he started or the people who dismissed him along the way. One such person was Mr. Caldwell, the gallery owner who had mocked him during his early days. After learning about Caldwell's struggling gallery, Marcus saw an opportunity, not for revenge, but for transformation. He approached Caldwell with a proposal to buy out the gallery and convert it into a space that would uplift underrepresented artists. At first, Caldwell resisted, his pride preventing him from easily agreeing to sell. But as financial pressures mounted and Marcus presented a compelling vision for the gallery's future, Caldwell grudgingly relented. The day the deal was finalized, Marcus walked through the gallery he now owned, imagining its potential. "This place will no longer be a gatekeeper," he said to his team. "It will be a bridge." Caldwell's grudging acknowledgement. Despite his initial bitterness, Caldwell couldn't ignore the profound changes Marcus brought to the gallery. Under its new name, the Phoenix Gallery, the space became a hub for emerging artists from marginalized backgrounds. The gallery hosted workshops, community events, and exhibitions that celebrated diversity in all its forms. During the grand reopening, Caldwell attended reluctantly, unsure of what to expect. As he watched the enthusiastic crowd and listened to Marcus' heartfelt speech, a spark of respect began to grow within him. After the event, Caldwell approached Marcus. "You've done something remarkable here," Caldwell admitted, his tone uncharacteristically sincere. "I didn't see it before, but your vision is exactly what this place needed." Marcus extended his hand. "It's never too late to be part of the change," he said. Caldwell hesitated, then shook it, a gesture of reconciliation and mutual respect. Recognition for Derek Carter and his family. Meanwhile, Derek Carter and his family became symbols of resilience and the fight for justice. Their story continued to inspire others, and they were invited to speak at conferences, universities, and community events across the country. Derek received several awards for his courage in standing up against systemic racism, but he always emphasized that the recognition wasn't just for him, it was for Monica, Jasmine, and Marcus, who had endured the ordeal alongside him. Jasmine, in particular, became an outspoken advocate for youth empowerment, using her platform to encourage young people to challenge injustice. The Carter family's experience also led to the creation of new legislation aimed at preventing racial profiling and increasing accountability in law enforcement. Their fight became a beacon of hope for others who faced similar struggles. The establishment of Marcus Art Foundation. With his career flourishing and his influence expanding, Marcus launched the Roots of Resilience Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting marginalized artists. The foundation provided grants, mentorship programs, and access to resources that had once been out of reach for artists like Marcus. The foundation's first major project was a national art competition for underrepresented creators. Winners were given the opportunity to showcase their work at the Phoenix Gallery and receive funding to advance their careers. Marcus viewed the foundation as a way to pay forward the opportunities Elaine Harper had given him. "I want every artist to know their voice matters," Marcus said during the foundation's launch event. Art can change the world, but only if we give everyone a chance to be heard. A symbolic reunion. The climactic moment of Marcus and Derek's journeys came at a special art exhibit organized by the Phoenix Gallery. Titled Unity in Diversity, the exhibit featured works from artists of all backgrounds, exploring themes of justice, resilience, and community. Derek and his family were invited as honored guests, their story having inspired one of the exhibit's centerpiece paintings by Marcus himself. The piece, titled Bound by Struggle, Freed by Hope, depicted a family standing strong against a storm, their hands intertwined. As the Carters walked through the exhibit, they were greeted with applause and gratitude from attendees. When they reached Marcus' painting, Derek paused, his eyes scanning the intricate details. "This is powerful," he said softly. Marcus, who had been observing from nearby, stepped forward. "It's inspired by you," he said. "Your fight, your courage, it's what the world needs more of." The two men shook hands, their connection transcending words. In that moment, they represented the intersection of art and justice, a testament to what could be achieved through determination and unity. Closing scene. The evening ended with a celebration on the gallery's rooftop, overlooking the city. Marcus and Derek stood side by side, their families mingling in the crowd. The scene was a vibrant tapestry of diverse voices and stories, each contributing to the greater narrative of progress. As Marcus raised a glass in a toast, he looked at Derek and smiled. "Here's to the fight, the art, and the future we're building, together." The crowd erupted in cheers, a chorus of hope and triumph that echoed into the night. The journeys of Marcus and Derek had come full circle, each man finding redemption not just for himself, but for the communities they represented. Together, they stood as symbols of resilience, unity, and the power of change.